Good afternoon to our friends from the media. Thank you very much for taking your time to be here to the sideline press conferences of our APEC event in this wonderful city of Iloilo. The organizers and the delegates of this event are very grateful for the warm reception that they're having so far in this wonderful city. So for our round of press conference for this afternoon, we have two very important speakers. The first is the Philippines PPP Center Executive Director, Ms. Cosette Canilao. And our second speaker is Ambassador Neil Reeder. He is the Canada's ambassador to the Philippines, but for this event, he is wearing another hat, which is co-chair of the APEC PPP Experts Advisory Panel. So we are going to ask our speakers to give some highlights of the sessions this morning, and then we are going to open the floor for Q&A. So just a gist, this morning's session was about infrastructure initiatives, and it was meant for the sharing of best practices in the Asia-Pacific region and the sharing of other initiatives and proposals to pursue the PPP agenda forward. So may I now give the floor to Ms. Cosette?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Ambassador Reeder is actually was the chaired the session earlier this morning, but for my part as the executive director of the PPP Center, I shared to the panel how the Philippine government approached the development of our PPP program, which is, as most of you know, we adopted a four-pronged approach. First, we improved our legal and regulatory framework, and then we worked on streamlining our processes in terms of evaluating PPP projects and in dealing with the private sector during bidding. We also, the third pillar was the massive capability building program that we rolled out not only to the implementing agencies but to all other agencies of the government involved in the delivery of the PPPs. And the fourth one on how we established the project development monitoring to build a pipeline of bankable and viable PPP projects. So that's. I also shared to the panel the ongoing initiatives that we're doing, and we are hoping to implement before the end of the Aquino administration, and one that's to enact the amendments to the Build, Operate, Transfer law, which incorporates all the reforms that we've initiated and introduces certain provisions that enhances the environment for PPPs. And again, continues capability building by partnering with government institutions, with other government institutions that are also involved in promoting PPPs and doing PPPs in other countries. And in terms of processes, we've also expanded our PDMF to include hiring of independent consultants to assist implementing agencies in the execution of their PPP projects post-award. So that's it for my part. Ambassador, you want to share with the others?
Thank you, Cosette, and let me just say it's a pleasure to be back in Iloilo. The first time I was in this hotel was 5 days after Yolanda, and Canada, of course, deployed 360 members of our armed forces to Panay Island in those very dark days, and it's very pleasant to come back and see all the progress and reconstruction that's been undertaken in those intervening months. And of course, the Canadian government was here to support the people of Panay with medical assistance, with water purification, road reconstruction, rehabilitation in some very, very dark days. I think I was here 5 times in the immediate aftermath of Yolanda with 360 members of the Canadian Armed Forces, which were one of the first forces to arrive and one of the last to leave. So it's great pride I come back and see the progress that's been made. I saw Mayor Jed this morning. I was also up about a month ago along the northern coast of Iloilo in Estancia and Concepcion to see projects funded by Canada for livelihood recovery for fishers and also housing projects that Canada's funding. Canadians provided, Canada and their government provided $170 million in assistance for Yolanda recovery through NGOs and civil society. So we're proud of that, but it's nice to come back to Iloilo in better times and see that the Filipinos in fact do bounce back, and this is an example of a province and a island that's able to recover and making some very good progress. So thank you. On the APEC agenda, let me just say the very good discussions this morning. I said to Cosette, this has brought together a very interesting group of individuals, including APEC economies. We've got different APEC economies that are represented here. The financial sector, the international banking community, international financial institutions, World Bank, Asian Development Bank, and private sector, including private sector banks and others. So it's a very interesting discussion on the PPP agenda. And I think the takeaways I had from the morning were tremendous interest in the PPP concept, tremendous interest in the private sector in assisting in PPP infrastructure developments. Some of the figures we know about are at least $1 trillion US in unmet infrastructure needs in Asia Pacific. So the demand is huge, and of course all of these economies now are trying to figure out how best to advance their infrastructure projects and their infrastructure process. And in that regard, as I said this morning, I do congratulate the government of the Philippines. I think President Aquino's government has done a model PPP center under the leadership of Cosette, and the results are obviously there in terms of projects that have been let, projects under review, and projects in the pipeline. And I'm beginning to see now as PPP centers evolve and develop around the region that obviously some of the experiences of the Philippines and the models that the Philippines has chosen to advance infrastructure are in fact being adapted and adopted by other economies in the region. So I do want to make that point to you. Canada, of course, has a long history of PPPs. We've had some 22 years of experience in PPPs at the national level and at the level of our provinces. We have 221 completed PPPs with a total value of some $70 billion. So we've done things well. We've also had lots of challenges, and I think that overall we've shared those experiences with the Philippines, with other economies that are interested in our experience. And our Prime Minister just announced 2 weeks ago an additional $5 billion in infrastructure projects. So it's obviously something that we're very keen on, and we do have expertise to share and the best practices. So we're pleased to assist in that respect. We're also pleased to support financially the development of PPP centers in the region, including here in the Philippines, with a contribution of $4.2 million to the PPP Center to strengthen its capacity to deliver on the government's PPP agenda. At the same time, we've been active in ASEAN as well, with a contribution to the ASEAN Center for Excellence in Infrastructure, which will help facilitate PPP projects throughout the ASEAN region with an additional $4.5 million. And finally, with the government of Indonesia, we are helping through an initial $5 million contribution and a further $14 million to help them with their PPP infrastructure. Again, a country like the Philippines with huge infrastructure needs. I think this is important to mention because we want to share our skill sets and also allow these countries like the Philippines and others to build up their capacity to project the infrastructure that you need for the country as it grows and develops and becomes more prosperous. Finally, I'm also pleased that Canada and the Philippines share the chairmanship of the APEC PPP Advisory Panel. This is a panel Canada co-chairs with the host country for APEC. So last year, Canada co-chaired with China, and this year, Cosette and I had the pleasure of sharing the panel together in that process, which provides expert advice, access to expertise for APEC economies that wish to advance PPP models within their own economies. And we're very pleased now to see Philippines doing so well as a model, I think, for ASEAN and the region on infrastructure. We've now got the Indonesian PPP Center moving along in Jakarta, and I was very pleased to see today from China that they have now created their own PPP Center with a very interesting agenda and, of course, huge infrastructure needs there as well. So I think all this bodes very well, and again, we're very pleased to work with Philippines throughout the APEC year, including in the APEC advisory panel, which can share best practices and expertise with APEC economies that want to advance in this sector. So thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Maraming salamat po.
Okay, we are now opening the floor to questions. We have microphones on the floor. And just for better documentation purposes, may we ask our friends from the media who will ask questions to please state their name and the organization you represent. Who would like to ask the first question? Okay.
Good morning, Francis Alan Angelo from the Daily Guardian in Iloilo. To Ambassador Reader, sir, in the domestic setting, like the Philippines and Indonesia, PPP seems to be doing well. But in the scale of APEC among the 21 member economies, how do we intend to encourage and operationalize cross-border PPP investments? Is that possible, and how do we intend to, can we operationalize that setup of cross-border PPP investments?
I would just simply say one of the points I took away from the last discussion today with the representative from the Bank of Tokyo was the tremendous appetite in the private sector with equity, both in the banking sector and the insurance sector, that are looking for opportunities to invest in longer-term infrastructure because they see the needs. They understand that these are long-term investments which the banks and insurers are comfortable with, and many of them have huge pools of capital that they would like to lock in to secure long-term financing. And I think that's where the cross-border impact comes, because those banks are looking for regional opportunities and are very, very flexible in trying to facilitate these kinds of deals. So I think the issue there is getting the systems in place at the national level, regulatory, the management of the PPP process, and then the financing will flow. And that could flow nationally, but it can also flow regionally and from international players as well.
Yeah, well, to add to what Ambassador Reader said, as a matter of fact, there's actually no barrier for any countries to invest in any PPP project of any territory. However, what they look for are bankable and viable PPP projects. They look for clarity in the processes, transparency, and clear legal regulatory framework. So hence, like what I mentioned earlier, that's what we worked on when we jump-started the PPP program here in the Philippines, to create an enabling environment for private sector to come in and invest in our PPP projects. For the 10 projects that we awarded, like the Mactan Cebu International Airport, that was awarded to a consortium of Megawide and GMR of India. So there you can see already the interest of the foreign private sector in investing in our infrastructure projects. In the automatic fare collection system project of the Department of Transportation and Communication, 7 parties participated in the bidding, and all those seven bidders composed of local and international players, so consortia of international and local players. Same thing, so it's the same story for most of our PPP projects, because we look for just a background, PPP drives innovation. We look for innovation, not only financing, but innovation from the private sector. And most of the technical criteria that we look for in our private partners are not resident here in our country. So the local companies would look for operators or partners from abroad to come in and invest in our PPP project. So there's no actual barrier that would prevent cross-border investment or cross-border financing, but the types of projects that we roll out and the environment by which the PPP program exists.
Okay, thank you. Yes, please.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Christian Losada from Bombo Radio Philippines. This is for Ambassador Neil Reader. How can Canada help in the development of the country, Philippines, especially those in the countryside?
How can we help?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Well, we help by providing one of the largest development cooperation programs that we've got abroad. We've provided $800 million in development assistance to the Philippines since the restoration of democracy in 1986. We just designated the Philippines as a country of focus for development cooperation, which implies a larger program going forward, focused on poverty reduction, focused on building up local governance, particularly at the LGU level, focused on assisting on gender, women entrepreneurs. We're focused on SMEs. So we're trying various ways to build up the economy, reduce unemployment, and reduce poverty. We've also been very active on sectors of interest to the Philippines government, including tourism. As I travel a lot around the country, we're funding programs in hotels like this for service personnel, hospitality sector, so that you can provide a better service to visitors and increase tourism and ensure that tourists come back. So we've provided some $15 million in the past 5 years for assistance in that area, and also focusing on, as I mentioned, new projects with gender support, women-led SMEs. We're now with Great Women working with the Commission of Filipino Women in the second phase of that project, which supports women-led SMEs to help them also export their products to markets abroad, including Canada.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Ambassador. This question is for Executive Director Cosette. As the co-chair of the, Executive Director of the APEC Private-Public Partnership Advisory Panel, how would you determine the necessity of a certain project, and what are the qualifications, requirements in determining priority of the infrastructure projects?
Excuse me again. Can you
Again,
please
okay.
Perhaps,
repeat?
if I may explain, if
Yes.
I get it correctly, I think he's asking, how does PPP Center prioritize projects?
Yes,
Is that
yes.
correct? How
And
do you
what are
determine
the
which ones are the most
qualifications?
important ones?
Yes.
Yes.
Actually, we do have a policy guideline that was approved by the PPP Governing Board, providing guidance to the implementing agencies on how to select or identify their PPP projects. So the identification of projects come from the implementing agencies such as the Department of Public Works and Highways, or DOTC. So amongst the projects that they've enumerated, which should be aligned with our long-term plan that NEDA prepares. From that set of projects, then they will have to gauge which projects are better done through PPP. So we have a multivariate analysis criteria that we've provided to the OTC and DPW, other implementing agencies, to check whether an airport check first if it hurdles the economic internal rate of return. Second, once the project passes that, then we assess whether there's enough interest from the private sector to finance, build, and operate that particular project. And third, does the implementing agency have the capacity to roll out such a huge and complex procurement mode for their infrastructure projects? But so those are the just three of the 7 criteria that that the implementing agencies have to evaluate and assess again in choosing which projects to do via PPP and which projects to do via other means.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, please.
Good afternoon to Director Cosette. One of the reasons our local
Excuse me, ma'am,
investment...
sorry. May I ask for your name and your
I am
organization?
Lydia Pendone, correspondent of the Manila Times. Director Cosette, one of the reasons why our local business community and our investment community is the long, tedious, and complicated process of the PPP and availing the assistance. Is there a way to make it more practical, and simple process in availing the PPP assistance?
Thank you.
And also, a follow-up question is that our investment community opted to have it joint venture with the local government units instead of availing the PPP. What is the difference between the joint venture agreement and the PPP?
Oh, very good questions. Thank you. First of all PPP projects go through two stage, or or even one stage, but it has to go through the same process. There has to be some pre-qualification for the bidders. So first we go through a pre-qualification process, and then we assess the bidders based on their financial capability, their technical know-how, and and the legality of the entity that's going to bid for our PPP projects. Second, once they are pre-qualified, then we go through the bid proper, meaning we give them information about the project and we ask them to do their due diligence, and then they submit their proposals. Now it becomes tedious. It becomes very long when it's a complex project. But if it's a simple project, such as most local governments would have, what do you call this? A public markets as their PPPs, or transport hubs as PPPs, or food processing as their PPPs. Those are not complicated projects. And the PPP Center have, in fact, put together a PPP manual for LGUs, and we have templates in that in the manuals that we published, and we've distributed to the local government units. So, and we provide assistance as well remotely to LGUs who are doing PPPs. And a lot of LGUs, because of the capacity development that we've deployed since 2010, a lot of LGUs have done their PPPs. So following the BOT or the PPP principles, but doing it on their level and using just securing RDC municipal or regional development council's approval. Now, the difference between joint venture agreement and PPP. In a PPP, there is a clear delineation of obligations between the private sector and the government. In a joint venture, you form a single business unit where the government is a direct equity provider or an equity partner in a joint venture. And but under a joint venture, which is agreement, which is patterned after the joint venture guidelines for government-owned and government-owned and controlled corporations, there should still be a competitive bidding done for the private partner. It's very important that we do a competitive bidding, be it the usual PPP via the BOT law or a joint venture agreement, because competition drives good value for the government.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. I am Runji Hamolo of Radyo ng Bayan. To Director Canilao, ma'am, since we are here in Iloilo City, what are the possible viable projects for PPP here in Iloilo City or the entire island, Panay?
Thank you. Just a disclosure, Iloilo is also my hometown, so kabalo ko mag-Ilonggo. Ngayong hapon sa inyo tanan. Yes, we're now bidding out the regional airport projects by the DOTC. So Iloilo Airport is part of that. So we're looking at expanding the terminal of Iloilo and asking the private sector to do the operations and maintenance. So that's part of the bidding that we're doing. One of the projects that we are bidding out right now. Now, the others that we're looking at, we're actually going to meet with Mayor Jed later on to look at how we can help him with a rail system that would hopefully decongest the traffic here in the city, rails going to the inner provinces of Iloilo, from the city and going to the inner province. So we'll talk about, we're looking at the possibility of helping him in the preparation of the business case or feasibility study. And of course, there is also a project that we're looking at for Iloilo, which is a government center. So there's a property owned by the province of Iloilo, I think, and Senator Drilon and Mayor Jed are looking. They're both. They've asked the help of the PPP Center to see if we could put together a project wherein all government offices will be located in that government center. So those are the two projects that we are looking at, yeah, for the province of Iloilo.
Okay, Chino.
Hi. Hello. Chino Leco, Manila Bulletin. Ma'am, can I ask for any update about the BOT law amendments? What's the status? And are you confident that it will pass within this year? And how will this solve or address the issues on delays and some legal aspects?
Thank you. Well, the BOT law amendments, we've already submitted it to the Congress, both the House of Representatives and the Senate. In the House of Representatives, the committee hearings are done, and it's now with the Appropriations Committee, and hopefully will go into plenary in the next in the next few weeks. In the Senate, we've also submitted the proposed amendments to the Senate committee, and there will be a hearing, I think, next week. The amendments would actually institutionalize the reforms that we've started, like, for example, the creation of the PPP Center and the PPP Governing Board, so the proper governance structure. And then we've also asked for the creation of the project development and monitoring facility, so that becomes part of the law, and that will that helps actually in accelerating the procurement of consultants and transaction advisors and even independent consultants post-award. And then we've also introduced there the concept of project of national significance. So if there is a government project, a major government project located in anywhere, like for example in Iloilo here, that will be shielded from any government adverse local government action if there is. So that's what we've included in the. We also clarified the mechanism for in processing unsolicited proposals, where we propose to extend the Swiss challenge from 2 months to 6 months to give the challengers more time to do their due diligence. So there are several features in the proposed amendment that aim to unclog or remove the roadblocks that we are seeing right now in terms of not only bidding out projects but in executing or implementing the projects post-award.
Are you confident that it will be passed by Congress within this year?
Yes, it's part of one of the priority bills it's one of the priority bills of the president, and we're closely working with the leaders of both houses in making sure that this is taken up in the next few months.
Good afternoon. Reggie Adosto of ABS-CBN po. Ma'am, PPP Center provides PPP expertise in different agencies such as Department of Education, DOH, and DPWH, and even DOTC. What have you done and still needs to be done for PPP Center can better help them? And how much of the work is done by PPP Center as to the concerned agencies or versus the concerned agencies po?
Thank you. We assist implementing agencies such as the DOTC, DPWH. So the major work is done by them, but we're there to assist them from beginning till monitor during the cooperation period. So from the start, like for example, in identifying projects if they have a list of projects and they consult us if they could do these projects via PPP. And then after that, we also help them in the procurement of consultants and transaction advisors. There is a clear, the implementing agency should have accountability over their projects. They are, after all, going to be, they're going to sign the contracts. So once we assist them in reviewing the outputs of the consultants, we assist them in securing approvals from the various government approving bodies. Once it's approved, we're also involved in the structuring, in the drafting of bid documents. We provide assistance there as well. And once it's awarded, we monitor the implementation and of the projects. Which means that we alert them of the milestones that they have to watch out for. We assist them unclog, like for example at the Anghari, it's going to open tomorrow. So we've been closely coordinating not only with DPWH but with other government agencies in removing roadblocks and in making sure that we're all on the same page. So that's. And then once and during the cooperation period, we get regular reports or updates from the implementing agencies, and we provide also, of course, capacity building venues for them. So the focus for the first 5 years were more on project preparation and in bidding out projects. But now we are again working closely with the implementing agencies in making sure that we have the proper monitoring protocols and monitoring and contract management arrangement.
Ma'am, this is finally for my end. Government originally said it would have 80 PPP projects worth at least 740 billion. So far, it's been 10 PPPs worth 190 billion. Why so many delays in project ready for bidding?
I think the list of when the PPP program was launched in September. I think you're referring to the first one in September 2010.
Yes.
Yes. They initially came out with a list, and there was really no what you call it, review whether the projects are ready or not. But I think over time, we've already communicated to everyone that PPPs are complex. And it's not only the Philippines experience, but that's the experience of Canada. So you don't just come up with a list of projects and then just say that we could roll this out in the next 5 years. As a matter of fact, in Indonesia alone, they've been doing. When we launched our PPP program in 2010, they've been trying to do it for the 7 years prior to when we launched it. But right now, we have an established PPP program, and we've already awarded 10 projects in a matter of 5 years, and we were bidding out 13 projects and we're not even to the level of Canada yet. So it's a work in progress, but we're churning out the projects as fast as we can. And the pipeline of projects that we have right now, that's not a wish list. It's a real pipeline of projects where initial vettings were done for those that in the early stages of project preparation. But for those that have already been submitted to NEDA for approval, those are real projects that can happen and that can be rolled out pretty soon.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Perhaps Ambassador have some insights about regional experience on PPPs.
Yeah, I just
delays.
wanted to say that to sort of support the comments from Cosette, if you look at the Canadian experience, 22 years of in the PPP sector, 221 finished projects. So it's about 10 per year. And that gives you an idea of the complexity of this. And that's, an economy that's much larger than the Philippines, much larger capacity perhaps to deliver. But even with this passage of time, it's taken that long to get to that number. So I think it is a challenging process. And we also have PPPs not only at the national level, but also 2 of our provinces have infrastructure entities within the provinces which do their own work. So I think the progress here is pretty good. And just to step back, And I hear the comments on the pace in the Philippines, but if you look into the Southeast Asian context and across Asia Pacific, I think the Philippines is making very good progress. Progress that's the envy of a number of other countries that are now seeking to advance because they all know that that infrastructure clock is ticking and they've got to move forward with these projects. So I think in that respect, the progress has been very good here.
Okay. Okay, I'll accommodate the 3 last questions from those 3 reporters. First, Angela.
Chris.
Hi, I'm Angela Celis from Malaya. Ma'am, with the Aquino administration, since Aquino administration only has a year left, do you have a working target or an emerging figure for the number of projects, PPP projects to be rolled out on top of the 10 that has been awarded? Or if not until the end of the term, at least up to the end of this year? And then of those that you are planning to roll out, could you identify the big ticket projects? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, as I mentioned, we are currently bidding out 13 projects. So that's the 5 regional airports, that LRT Line 2 ONM, the Laguna Lakeshore, 122 billion, the Davao Sasa Port, Seaport. We also have the regional facilities, that's about 50 billion, 57 billion. And then recently, the OTC published the biggest PPP ever, and that's the North-South Railway project, the South Line. That's 177 billion. So it's getting really, the magnitude of the projects and the complexity is getting very challenging. Now, on top of that, we have 3 more projects that we've gotten approval from the NEDA board and the ICC. That's the the computerization projects of the Philippine Statistical Authority, the IT project 2 of the the LTFRB, the Land Transportation Franchising Regulatory Board, and then we're waiting for the final nod of the ICC for the NLEX-SLEX Connector Road project, again of the DPWH, and we have 4 more projects that have already been approved by the ICC and are awaiting NEDA board approval. That's the LRT Line 6, LRT Line 4, the NAIA Development Project, and the Batangas-Manila Natural Gas Pipeline project. So those are really big projects and really complex projects.
Okay. Chrissy.
To Ms. Cosette, Chrissy from Rappler. Last year, you said that PPP Center is targeting to complete 5 projects, which are the 2 phases of school infra, MCX, NAIAX, and AFCS. As of now, only 1 has been completed. Are you keeping your target or trimming it down?
Well, 2 have already been completed. The first phase of the school project of DepEd, that's the classrooms are being used already by the students, so that's 1. The Daang Hari is set to open tomorrow, so that's 2. The NAIA Expressway, there's going to be, we're targeting to open the ramps connecting to Terminal 2 and Terminal 1. And we're really working hard to open it by October, so in time for the November APEC meetings. But the three exits will be completed in our estimates, by April of next year. So that's doable. So the NAIA Expressway, and then the automatic fare collection system. I think there are a lot of press releases on the soft use of beep cards, and that's the project actually of the PPP project of the OTC, the automatic fare collection system. So the private partner is targeting to officially launch that September of this year. And then the second phase of the classroom construction, we're looking at, I think the private part is looking at completing that by first quarter of next year. So still 5, Chrissy.
We're taking the last question from who raised his hand earlier. Is that you? Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm Leonard Pineda from PIA. To Ambassador Reader.
Yeah.
Sir, what long-term investments has Canada, especially, what long-term investments in the country has Canada brought here so far, especially in Iloilo? And what areas does Canada want to invest in?
Well, if you talk about the Philippines, the two oldest insurance companies in your country are Canadian. Sun Life has been here for 120 years. Manulife has been here for 109 years. They employ thousands of Filipinos, so in that respect, they've made a major contribution to employment in your country, opportunities for young people. They have thousands of agents who work throughout the country, make a salary, look after their families, send the kids to school. So I think it's all very positive. And also on the PPP side, I believe there's potential for our insurers to also play a role in equity financing for some of the infrastructure projects, including in power. And I've seen comments to that effect by the by the Sun Life Insurance Company, for example. So that's an important part of our contribution. We also have major investments in the ICT sector. We have two functioning mines which are mining in a proper and sustainable manner. Canada is the largest mining country in the world. We have very strong mining technologies, sustainable mining technologies that we wish to bring and expand in the Philippines should the opportunities present themselves. We also have in the BPO sector about 35,000 jobs provided by Canadian BPO investments. So I think that's noteworthy. There's also a dimension on development cooperation where we can consider what we're doing on development assistance as an investment. It's an investment in the future, in opportunity, in providing, in helping reduce poverty, but also creating jobs and opportunity for people in various sectors, including women entrepreneurs. We're very engaged on gender promotion. So I think you can look at that programming as well as being significant. Here in Panay Island, I would say there's less direct investment, but we've had a long-standing development cooperation relationship, which is very, very good. We're very happy with that. And I think the other dimension that's of interest here is a very strong tradition of people-to-people ties with Canada. And you've got communities here that are called Little Toronto, where you've got immigrants who went to Canada and came back. Coming back to the Philippines from Canada, they enrich your country with their knowledge base. They enrich your country with their investments based on funds that they've made in Canada over a career. Some choose to retire, some choose to invest here, and we're very conscious of the importance of this province as a source of new Canadians who have stayed. Some have came back as well. We see immigration as a two-way process which enriches both countries, and we're very proud of the contribution of people from across Panay Island in terms of Canada. I guess the final comment, if I can, is on the BPO sector. And I think that, I can't speak for the Canadian companies directly, but I think the BPO industry generally is reaching a saturation point in Manila, and in terms of employees and travel times and congestion, I think they're looking increasingly to go outside of Manila. We're seeing, obviously, Cebu benefiting from that. Davao is benefiting from that. There was a big announcement in the newspaper today about Davao. Iloilo was also benefiting from that. So I think over time you're going to see that white-collar, good jobs kind of investment coming your way, and that may eventually include Canadian companies. I can't speak to that. Manulife, for example, their latest BPO investment is in Mactan Island, so they've now gone outside of Manila, and I suspect that there'll be more and more of that investment from the international community, because you do have a very attractive environment here for investment. I mentioned this morning to Mayor Jed in my remarks what a impressive city he has, nice infrastructure, your business center that you're developing, new hotels. So I think it's making a very welcoming environment for investment, and I certainly give him credit for that. Thank you.
Question for Director Canilao. There's the looming deadline for the ASEAN economic integration, ASEAN economic community. How would this impact the PPP ecosystem in the country?
will have a minimal, well, adverse impact. I don't see any impact at all in terms of it will be bad for the PPP. No, we're trying to actually get more foreign investors to come into and invest in our PPPs. In terms of our PPP program, we're quite ahead with the other AEC economies. In terms of skill set, there's a lot of skills needed in construction of our infrastructure. Well, it's here, but actually it's already it's not even enough already. And Secretary Singson is actively marketing it to foreign construction companies to make Philippines their base, so that they could actually provide services to the AEC community. So there's very minimal impact, if any, to the PPP program.
Okay, to formally close our press conference, may we ask our speakers to perhaps share your medium-term outlook or goals for PPP, for Ms. Cosette as far as the Philippines is concerned, and for the ambassador as far as the APEC region is concerned?
For the Philippines, obviously, we are working towards the sustainability of the PPP program beyond this administration, with the elections looming next year. And one of ensuring that is the passage of the amendments of the BOT law, or the PPP Act. We're continuously developing the pipeline by working with the implementing agencies, not only for the traditional economic infrastructure, but also for irrigation and other social infrastructure. We are continuously doing capacity building exercises, not only for implementing agencies, but for PPP Center too. Of course, PPP is a work. Our PPP program is a work in progress. No matter how much, when we say that we achieved so much, it's still a work in process, and it's continuously evolving. And we hope by the end of President Aquino's administration, it will be in a form that can actually be passed on and sustained by the next administration.
Well, I think today's meeting is a great opportunity to bring the Asia region to Iloilo. And it was interesting how many favorable comments we heard from delegates about the city, about the province, about a very positive experience, and of course the very warm hospitality of the Filipinos. So in that respect, kudos to the government of the Philippines and to the provincial and city officials for delivering such a nice event. And this, of course, is part of a series of these meetings. Some will bring us back to Iloilo, some to Cebu. The whole APEC year is a terrific opportunity for the Philippines to position itself as a destination for foreign investment, to attract foreign investment, for best business practices. It's an opportunity to promote tourism. And I think we're all very pleased to see how the APEC year is unfolding, leading up, of course, to the Leaders Summit in November, which will be one of the biggest events that your country has ever hosted. So I think in that respect, it's been a very, very good day. Again, it also highlights the importance of infrastructure and the importance of bringing together the key players in the infrastructure industry. There's a lot of buzz about infrastructure. And these kinds of events where you draw in the private sector, the banks, the IFIs, government officials, and the APEC officials around a table to discuss, I think is a very, very positive exercise. Lots of good initiative and lots of sharing of best practices around the table. So overall, I think it's been a very, very good event, and I do want to thank the Philippines government and the local municipal authorities for hosting such a nice program. Thank you.
Okay, so that ends our press conference for this afternoon. Thank you very much to our speakers and to our friends from the media for your participation. I will see you again later around 5 or 5:30 for our next round of press con. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Cosette.